In this video, we're going to go through a couple more examples for expanding double brackets. And in particular, we're going to look at what happens when both brackets have a negative number as their second parts. So the first part of each bracket again is going to be x, and in this case we're going to have our first bracket as x minus 3 and our second bracket as x minus 2. So the principle remains exactly the same no matter whether both parts are positive, both parts are negative, or you've got one of each. We're just going to apply this half moon technique that we've been using in the past couple of videos. And each of these lines again is a multiplication. So the first one we do is the shorter of the two lines at the top, which is x times x, gives us x squared. Then we're going to do x times by minus 2, this longer line on top. Now we've got a positive term times by a negative term. So that's going to be negative, and then 2 times x is simply 2x. Then we do the shorter of the two lines underneath. Again, we've got minus 3 times by positive x. So that's a negative term, and 3 times x is just 3x. So be really careful here. We've got minus 3 times by minus 2. So again, deal with the symbols first if you find that helpful. We've got one negative times by another negative, that's going to give us a positive number. And then we've simply got 3 times by 2. We can ignore the symbols now. So 3 times by 2 gives us 6. So that's the expanded version. Now we need to simplify this. Again, it's only the x terms that can be simplified. So the x squared is going to stay the same. Now we've got minus 2x minus 3x. Now that can seem confusing, but when we're adding and subtracting negatives, a great way of dealing with them is on a number line. Okay, so we're at 0, let's go down to minus 2. Let's start from here, and now we're minusing 3. So we're going down 3 steps. You can see that's going to bring us out at minus 5. Another way of thinking about it is to simply forget that they're negatives at all. Okay, if you think about them as both positive, we just simply do 2 plus 3. We know that's going to give us 5. Well, if they're both negative, all that's really happening is we're still adding them together, but rather than adding them together in the positive direction, we're adding them together in the negative direction. So we simply add together 2 and 3, that's 5. Now both these numbers, rather than moving up the number line, are actually moving down, but we're still adding them together, they're heading in the same direction. So combining 2 and 3 gets us 5, but of course they're both negative, so they're actually minus 5 when we combine them. So we can see that this is going to give us minus 5x. And then the plus 6 remains exactly the same. Okay, that's your final answer. Let's have a look at another example. And in this example, like we did in the last video, I'm actually going to use y's just to show that the principle is exactly the same and that it doesn't matter what your letter is at the start of each bracket. And again, we're going to have both brackets with negative numbers in them. So in this case, we're going to use y minus 4 and y minus 8 as our two brackets. So using the half moon method, you can write these lines on each time if you want to. If you get really familiar with this method and you don't need to write the lines on, that's fine as well, but until you're really comfortable with it, I'd advise putting the lines on. And if you want a way of remembering which ones you've done is to simply put a line through them as you do them. So we're going to do y times by y. This gives us y squared. Then we're going to do y times by minus 8, so we're going to do this one now. Y times by minus 8, that's going to give us a negative term, and simply 8y times by y. Then the shorter of the two lines underneath, again, minus 4 times by positive y, so this is going to be a negative term, and then 4 times by y is 4y, you put a line through it. And then finally we've got minus 4 times by minus 8. So again, both these terms are negative, so when you times two negatives together, you actually get a positive result. And so now forget about the symbols, now it's just 4 times 8, which is 32. Okay, so that's the expanded version. Now let's simplify it. Again, you should be familiar by now, the only part you have to simplify is the two y terms. We're going to tidy those into one. So again, both are negatives. So again, don't think about it as two negatives. If you want, think about them as both positive. We're simply doing 8 plus 4, which is obviously 12, but now we're just doing it in the negative direction. So rather than adding on 8 and then adding on 4 on top of that to reach 12, we're now just going down. We're going minus 8 and minus 4. So it's the same distance, just going down rather than up. So minus 8 minus 4 is going to give us minus 12. Okay, so we're going to get y squared minus 12y plus 32. That is your final answer. If you found this video helpful, please consider dropping it a like and subscribe to the channel for more GCSE maths videos as well as GCSE science videos.